Welcome back to Paranightmares, where the night whispers and we listen. If creepy tales and unsettling shadows are your kind of lullaby, you're in the right place. Before we descend into tonight's darkness, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're from and what time you're watching. After you finish the video, let us know which part made your skin crawl most. I'm watching, and I read everyone. At 32, I was drowning in rent for my one-bedroom apartment, a cluttered sanctuary of second-hand books and half-written manuscripts. My job as a freelance editor barely kept me afloat, and the landlord's emails were growing sharper, threatening eviction if I didn't find a way to split the $1,200 monthly burden. Desperate, I posted a Craigslist ad at 11 p.m. Room for rent, $500 per month, utilities included, 47 Cedar Street, apartment 3C. Quiet, clean roommate preferred. I included a grainy photo of the spare room, a narrow space with a sagging bed and a cracked window overlooking a neon-lit alley. I expected a slow trickle of replies, but within minutes, my inbox pinged with a message from Kay. I'll take it. Moving in tonight. Leave the key under the mat. No questions, no details, just a cold efficiency that sent a shiver down my spine. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. It was late, and the idea of a stranger moving in without meeting felt reckless, but the threat of eviction loomed larger than my unease. I typed a quick reply, asking for a name or phone number, but got no response. Against my better judgment, I placed the key under the mat, its metal cold against my palm, and went to bed. The apartment silent except for the hum of the fridge and the distant wail of sirens outside. The air felt heavy, charged, like the calm before a storm. At 2:47 a.m., I woke to a soft thud, like a door closing, followed by the creak of floorboards in the hallway. My heart jolted, and I lay still, straining to listen. The creaks were slow, deliberate, pacing back and forth outside my bedroom door. I grabbed my phone, its light casting jagged shadows across the walls, and called out, "Kay, is that you?" No answer, just the creaking, now joined by a faint scratching, like nails dragging across wood. I crept to the door, my breath shallow, and peered through the keyhole. The hallway was dark, but I saw it, a silhouette, tall and thin, standing motionless by the spare room, its head tilted as if listening. I locked my door, my hands trembling, and checked my phone. No new messages, no signal, just the time ticking toward 3 a.m. The scratching grew louder, rhythmic, and the air turned cold, my breath fogging in the dim light. I heard a whisper, low and guttural, seeping through the door. "I'm here." It wasn't a voice I could place, too deep, too layered, like a chorus of shadows speaking as one. I clutched my phone, its screen now flickering, and the whisper became my name, drawn out mocking. "Elliot." I stayed awake, my back against the headboard, the scratching circling the apartment, moving from the hallway to the living room, then back. The air grew thicker, heavy with a musty smell, like damp earth mixed with something sour, like spoiled milk. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe Kay was just settling in, moving furniture, but the whisper returned clearer. "You invited me." The floorboards groaned, as if the apartment itself was shifting, and I saw it through the keyhole again. The figure closer now, its face obscured, its hands pressed against my door, fingers long and pale, nails black and jagged. Dawn broke, the scratching stopped, and the apartment fell silent. I crept out, my heart pounding, and checked the spare room. The bed was untouched, the window cracked open, letting in a chill that smelled of decay. The key was gone from under the mat, but a faint scratch marked the doorframe. A single word etched in jagged lines. "Stay." I deleted the ad, my hand shaking, but Kay messaged again. "I'm staying. You asked me to." I blocked the email, but the messages kept coming, appearing on my phone, my laptop, even scrawled on pages of my manuscripts. "I'm home." The figure returned the next night, its silhouette bolder, standing in the living room, its head tilted, watching me through the walls. I tried to move out, but the landlord refused to break the lease, and every apartment I viewed had the same musty smell, the same scratches on the door. I researched Kay's email, finding nothing, but stumbled on a Craigslist forum warning about a roommate ad that summoned something not human, a presence that claimed anyone who offered it a home. The last tenant at 47 Cedar Street had vanished, their apartment filled with scratches and whispers. I contacted a priest, Father Michael, who came to bless the apartment. He sprinkled holy water, his voice trembling as he prayed, but the air grew colder, the scratches louder, and the figure appeared behind him, its hands reaching, its whisper drowning out his words. "You can't send me away." He fled, dropping his rosary, its beads scattering across the floor. I tried to leave the apartment, moving to a motel, but the figure followed, its silhouette in every window, its whisper in every shadow, calling my name. The scratching is constant now, carving my name into the walls, the doors, even my skin when I sleep. The musty smell chokes me, and the figure is always there, its jagged nails glinting, its face still obscured but closer, its whisper a command. "Stay with me." I've stopped sleeping, my manuscripts ruined, the words replaced with its messages. I know it's tied to the ad, to the key I left, but I can't undo it. The figure wants me to stay, to be its roommate forever, and I'm running out of places to hide. I was 29, a graphic designer scraping by on freelance gigs. My apartment a chaotic sprawl of sketch pads, empty coffee mugs, and scattered pencils. The rent a relentless weight threatening to crush me. The one bedroom on 12 Pine Road, apartment 5A, was too big for my budget. Its high ceilings and creaky hardwood floors a luxury I couldn't sustain alone. The spare room, a narrow space with a sagging twin bed and a cracked window overlooking a grimy alley, had a locked closet the landlord warned me never to touch. Storage, he said, for old tenant junk, sealed with the heavy padlock. Desperate to split the $1,100 rent, I posted a Craigslist ad at 11:47 p.m. Roommate needed, $450 per month. Utilities included, 12 Pine Road, apartment 5A. Tidy, quiet, no pets. I snapped a quick photo of the room, the flash catching the closet's rusted padlock, and hit post, expecting a slow trickle of replies from students or drifters. Within minutes, my inbox pinged. A username T wrote, "I'll take it. Moving in tonight. Don't need the closet. Leave the key under the door." The message was curt, devoid of warmth or questions, just a stark demand that sent a prickle down my neck. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, the glow casting harsh shadows across my cluttered desk. It was late, and the idea of a stranger showing up without a meeting felt reckless, but the landlord's latest email, threatening eviction if I missed another payment, loomed larger than my unease. I replied, asking for a name, a phone number, anything, but got no response. Against my better judgment, I slid the spare key under the front door's mat, its cold metal biting my fingers, and went to bed, the apartment's silence heavy, broken only by the faint drip of a leaky faucet and the distant hum of traffic outside. At 3:12 a.m., I jolted awake, my heart hammering, the air icy despite the radiator's hiss. A low hum vibrated through the walls, like a machine whirring in the distance, steady but unnatural, resonating in my chest. I lay still, my breath shallow, listening as the hum grew louder, joined by a soft knock, tap, 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 coming from the spare room's locked closet. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam trembling in my hand, and crept down the hallway, the hardwood cold under my bare feet, each step creaking like a warning. The apartment smelled wrong, heavy with mildew and a sharp, metallic tang, like rusted iron or old blood. I called out, "T, is that you?" My voice sounded small, swallowed by the dark, and the knocking paused, only to resume, sharper now, like something impatient. I pushed open the spare room's door, the hinges groaning, and swept the flashlight's beam across the space. The bed was untouched, its faded quilt undisturbed, the windows cracked, letting in a chill that raised goosebumps on my arms. The knocking came again, louder, from the closet, the padlock rattling as if something was pushing from inside. I stepped closer, my pulse thundering, and the hum became a voice, faint but clear, seeping through the wood. "Open the door." It was high, almost childlike, but wrong, layered with a hiss that made my skin crawl. I backed away, the beam catching the closet door's surface, scratched, the wood gouged with tiny, claw-like marks that glistened faintly, as if wet. The knocking intensified, rhythmic, relentless, shaking the door in its frame, and the whisper grew louder. "Let me out, roommate." The air thickened, the mildew smell now choking, mixed with that metallic tang, and the floorboards creaked, as if the apartment was shifting under the weight of something unseen. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door, my hand shaking as I clutched the flashlight, its beam flickering like a dying star. The knocking followed, circling the apartment, walls, ceiling, even under the floor. Each tap a hammer against my nerves. The whisper became a giggle, high and gleeful, forming my name. "Clara." I pressed my back against the headboard, my phone useless, its signal dead, the screen showing only the time, 3:33 a.m. I stayed awake, the knocking relentless, the giggle weaving through the hum, which now shook the walls, rattling my sketches and knocking pencils to the floor. The air was freezing, my breath fogging, and I saw it, a shadow under the bedroom door, small but wrong, its edges flickering like static on an old TV. It moved, sliding along the floor, and the giggle became a plea. "Open the door. Be my roommate." I didn't sleep, my eyes fixed on the door, the shadows circling, the hum pulsing in my bones. When dawn broke, the knocking stopped, the hum faded, and the apartment was silent, but the air still smelled of mildew. The closet door, now scarred with fresh scratches, the words stay carved in jagged lines. I deleted the Craigslist ad, my hands trembling, but T messaged again. "I'm in the closet. Let me out." I blocked the email, but the messages kept coming, appearing on my phone, my laptop, even scrawled on my sketch pads in that same jagged script. I called the landlord, demanding he open the closet, but he laughed, saying it was just old pipes, and hung up. I tried to move, packing my things, but every apartment I viewed had a locked door, the same mildew smell, the same faint knocking. I found a Craigslist forum post, buried in a thread about cursed rentals, warning about a roommate ad for 12 Pine Road. The last tenant had vanished, their apartment filled with scratches and a hum that never stopped, the closet sealed shut. I contacted a locksmith, a grizzled man named Pete, who came with a crowbar and a skeptical grin. He worked the padlock, but the hum returned louder, shaking the floor, and the closet door rattled, the giggle now a scream. "Don't." Pete dropped his tools, his face pale, and fled, muttering about cursed houses. I tried to break the door myself, swinging a hammer, but the wood wouldn't splinter. The padlock unscathed, and the shadow grew bolder, slipping under every door, its claw marks spreading across my walls, my furniture, even my skin when I slept. I moved to a motel, then another, but the hum followed, faint at first, like a distant engine, then louder, shaking the walls. The shadow was there, small and flickering, its giggle in my dreams, describing my every move, my every thought, as if it lived inside me. I found an old newspaper article about a child who'd lived in my apartment decades ago, locked in that closet by a cruel parent, their screams unheard until they were gone. The ad was theirs, the forum said, summoning anyone who offered them a home, binding them to the closet forever. I tried a ritual, suggested by a psychic I found online. Salt circles, sage smoke, a silver charm. But the hum turned to a roar, the shadow clearer, its claw marks forming my name. I burned the sage, the smoke choking me, and the giggle became a laugh, mocking. "You can't send me away." I'm in a rented room now, my savings gone, the hum constant, the shadow always there, its tiny form dancing in the dark, its claws scratching my door. The messages keep coming on walls and mirrors and my dreams. "Open the door. Be my roommate." I've stopped running because the closet is everywhere, its lock rattling, its whisper in my head, and I know it wants me to open it, to let it out, to stay with it forever. At 27, I was a barista. My days a blur of espresso steam and impatient customers. My nights spent in a cramped apartment on 9 Oak Lane, apartment 2B, surrounded by dog-eared novels and chipped coffee mugs. Rent devoured half my paycheck, leaving me scrambling to make ends meet. So I posted a Craigslist ad at 12:15 a.m. Roommate wanted $400 per month, utilities included. 9 Oak Lane, apartment 2B. Easygoing, no pets, no drama. I attached a blurry photo of the spare room, a small space with a lumpy mattress and a window overlooking a flickering streetlight, and hit post, hoping for a quiet student or temp worker to split the $900 rent. A reply came at 1:03 a.m. from R. I'll move in tonight. Quiet won't bother you. Key under the mat. The message was stark, no pleasantries. Just a cold assertion that made my stomach twist. I typed a response, asking for more details, a name, a job, anything, but got no reply. The promise of $400 was too tempting, so I slid the key under the mat, its edges worn smooth, and went to bed. The apartment's silence broken by the buzz of the streetlight outside and the faint creak of settling walls. At 4:07 a.m., I woke with a start, my skin prickling. The air heavy with a sense of being watched. My bedroom was dark, the only light from my phone's faint glow. But I felt it, eyes, unblinking, boring into me from the corner. I grabbed my phone, its screen flickering, and shone it toward the corner. A figure stood there, tall and still, its face obscured, but its eyes glinted like polished glass, reflecting the light in sharp, unnatural shards. I screamed, scrambling back. But the figure didn't move, its presence cold, the air thick with the smell of ash and damp cloth, like a fire doused in rain. I ran to the spare room, my bare feet slapping the hardwood, and found it empty. The bed untouched, the window's streetlight casting jagged shadows. The feeling of eyes followed, the glint appearing in every corner, every reflection, the window, my phone screen, even a spoon on the counter. I locked myself in the bathroom, the air freezing, my breath fogging, and the whisper came, soft but piercing. I see you. It was genderless, layered, like voices overlapping, and it formed my name. Lila. The glint appeared in the mirror, 2 shining points, watching, unblinking, as the whisper grew louder. You invited me to watch. I stayed in the bathroom, clutching a towel, the whisper circling, the glint in every reflective surface, even the faucet's shine. Dawn broke, the whisper faded, but the air still smelled of ash, and the spare room's window was smudged with faint, oily marks, like fingerprints. I deleted the ad, my hands shaking, but I messaged again. I'm watching. Always. I blocked the email, but the messages kept coming, scrawled on my novels, etched in the steam on my bathroom mirror. I see you. The figure returned every night, its glinting eyes bolder, appearing in doorways, behind furniture, its presence heavier, the ash smell choking. I tried to move, but every apartment I toured had the same smudged windows, the same feeling of being watched. I found a Craigslist thread about a tenant at 9 Oak Lane who'd rented to R, vanishing after feeling eyes in every shadow, their apartment filled with glinting reflections. I contacted a medium, a woman named Elena, who came with crystals and a stern face. She sensed the figure, her hands trembling, and said it was tied to the ad, a watcher that claimed those who let it in. She tried a banishing ritual, but the glint appeared in her crystals, the whisper drowning her chants. You can't stop me. I moved to a motel, then a friend's couch, but the eyes followed, glinting in every window, every polished surface, the whisper in my dreams, describing my fears, my secrets. I found an old article about a tenant who'd lived in my apartment, a recluse who'd watched the street obsessively, disappearing after posting a roommate ad. The figure is closer now, its eyes in my coffee mugs, my phone, my eyes when I blink, its whisper a command. I'll watch you forever. I've stopped sleeping, covering every reflective surface, but the glint is in my mind, and I know R is here, watching, always watching, my roommate for life. I was 30, a struggling musician. My one-bedroom apartment on 22 Elm Street, apartment 4D, a cluttered shrine to my dreams. Guitar strings tangled on the floor, lyric sheets pinned to the walls, a battered amp humming in the corner. Rent was $1,000 a month, a noose around my neck, so I posted a Craigslist ad at 1:22 a.m. Roommate needed $450 per month. Utilities included 22 Elm Street, apartment 4D. Music lovers welcome. I included a photo of the spare room, a cramped space with a futon and a window streaked with city grime, and went to bed, the apartment quiet except for the faint buzz of my amp and the distant wail of a subway train. At 3:09 a.m., I woke to a song, a haunting melody, high and mournful, drifting from the spare room like a lullaby twisted into a dirge. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam cutting through the dark, and crept down the hallway, the hardwood cold under my feet, the air heavy with the smell of wax and blood, sharp and unsettling. I called out, "Hello," but the song continued, vibrating through the walls, the notes long and slow, like a funeral march. The spare room was empty, the futon untouched, but the melody grew louder, coming from the walls themselves, and a whisper wove through it, soft and pleading. "Sing with me." I checked the closet, the bathroom, every corner, but found nothing. Yet the song persisted, the air freezing, my breath fogging in the flashlight's beam. The whisper became clearer, a woman's voice, cracked and desperate. "You wanted a singer. Sing." My guitar was out, its strings plucked by invisible hands, playing the same mournful tune. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door, but the song followed, seeping through the walls, the whisper forming my name. "Evan!" The air grew thicker, the wax blood smell choking, and I saw it, a faint shape in the corner, a woman in a tattered dress, her lips moving, her eyes hollow, black pits that seemed to swallow the light. The singing continued all night, the melody twisting into something frantic, the whisper now a command. "Sing with me." Finish the song. I stayed awake, my flashlight trembling, the walls shaking with the song's resonance, my lyric sheets fluttering to the floor, now scrawled with notes I hadn't written. Dawn silenced the song, but the spare room's window was fogged, etched with musical staff lines that bled red. I deleted the ad, but AM messaged again. "Sing with me. I'm here." The messages kept coming on my phone, my laptop, my lyric sheets, in a script that wasn't mine. The woman appeared every night, her song louder, her hollow eyes closer, her tattered dress dripping something dark onto the floor. I tried to leave, but every apartment I viewed had the same wax smell, the same faint melody in the walls. I found a forum post about a singer who'd rented that room, vanishing after her voice became something else, her song summoning a presence that demanded a duet. I contacted a priestess, who burned herbs and chanted, but the song turned to a scream, and she fled, saying it was tied to an unfinished melody, a curse that claimed singers. I moved to a hostel, then a friend's basement, but the song followed, the woman's figure in every shadow, her voice in my throat, urging me to sing. I found a diary in my apartment, not mine, filled with lyrics in her handwriting, each page stained with blood, describing a song she'd never finished, a melody that consumed her. I've tried playing it, my fingers shaking on the guitar, but the notes are wrong, and she screams, her voice tearing through my mind. The melody is in my veins now, the wax blood smell in my lungs, and I know she wants me to finish her song, to sing with her, to be her roommate in the music forever. At 28, I was a coder, my life a blur of glowing screens and caffeine-fueled deadlines. My apartment on 18, Birch Avenue, apartment 6B, a tangle of cables, takeout boxes, and flickering monitors. The $950 rent was bleeding me dry, so I posted a Craigslist ad at 12:43 a.m. Roommate needed $500 per month. Utilities included 18 Birch Avenue, apartment 6B, tech savvy preferred. The spare room was a closet-sized space with a single outlet and a window facing a brick wall, perfect for someone as buried in work as I was. I hit post and fell asleep to the hum of my computer fans, the city's pulse faint outside. At 3:30 a.m., I woke to tapping, like fingers on a keyboard, sharp and rhythmic, coming from a spare room. I grabbed my phone, its screen flickering, and crept down the hallway. The air cold, smelling of ozone and dust, like a server room left to rot. I called out, "Hey, is someone there?" But got no answer, just a tapping, now faster, echoing in the walls. The spare room was empty, the bed untouched, but the tapping continued, and a whisper joined it, low and mechanical. "I waited for you." My laptop was on, its screen displaying lines of code I hadn't written, scrolling endlessly, forming my name. Noah. I unplugged the laptop, but the tapping persisted, now in the ceiling, the floor, the air growing colder, my breath fogging. The whisper became a voice, layered with static. "You called me." I saw it, a figure in the corner, tall and gaunt, its hands typing on an invisible keyboard, its eyes burning white, like LEDs in the dark. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door, but the tapping followed, the code appearing on every screen, my phone, my TV, even my smartwatch. Each line a command. "Stay with me." Dawn stopped the tapping, but my screens were frozen, displaying the same code, the spare room's window etched with binary that spelled wait. I deleted the ad, but V messaged again. "I'm here." I waited. The messages kept coming, in my code, my emails, even scratched into my desk. The figure returned every night, its white eyes brighter, its typing louder, the ozone smell choking. I tried to move, but every apartment had the same flickering lights, the same tapping in the walls. A forum post warned a coder who'd rented that room, vanishing after their programs turned against them, their screens filled with endless code. I hired a hacker to trace V's email, but they found nothing, their own system crashing with the same code. I contacted a tech shaman, who said the figure was digital, a presence tied to the ad, waiting for coders to claim. She tried to cleanse my devices, but the tapping became a screech, and she fled, her own laptop fried. I've moved to a cabin off-grid, but the tapping follows, the figure in every shadow, its code in my dreams, rewriting my thoughts. I found a USB drive in my apartment, not mine, filled with code that calls my name, demanding I finish its program, to join it, to be its roommate in the digital void forever. I was 26, a dance instructor, my apartment on 7, Maple Drive, apartment 3A, a mirrored haven of worn ballet shoes, yoga mats, and choreography notes taped to the walls. The $1,000 rent was a chain around my ankles, so I posted a Craigslist ad at 11:55 p.m. Roommate needed, $400 per month. Utilities included, 7, Maple Drive, apartment 3A. Dancers welcome. The spare room was tiny, its mirrors reflecting a sagging cot and a window with a broken blind, but I hoped for a kindred spirit to share my passion. I hit post and went to bed, the apartment quiet except for the creak of floorboards and the distant hum of the city. At 2:14 a.m., I woke to a rhythmic thumping, like footsteps dancing a waltz, coming from the spare room. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam bouncing off the mirrors, and crept down the hallway. The air cold, smelling of sweat and roses, a strange mix that clung to my throat. I called out, "Hello," but the thumping continued, precise and relentless, vibrating through the floor. The spare room was empty, the cot untouched, but the mirrors showed movement, a blur of motion, a figure dancing, its limbs bending too far, its movements jerky, like a puppet on frayed strings. A whisper joined the thumping, "Dance with me." The air grew colder, my breath fogging in the mirror's reflection, and the whisper became a voice, soft and urgent. "You wanted a dancer. Dance." The mirrors shook, the figure clearer, a live form in a tattered leotard, its face shadowed, its limbs twisting unnaturally. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door, but the thumping followed, the mirrors in my room reflecting the same figure, dancing in a blur, its whisper in my head. "Join me, Mia." The air was thick, the sweat rose smell overwhelming, and the floorboards groaned, as if the apartment was swaying to the dance. Dawn stopped the thumping, but the mirrors were smudged with oily fingerprints, forming spirals. I deleted the ad, but Jay messaged again. "Dance with me. I'm here." The messages kept coming, etched in the mirrors, scrawled on my choreography notes. The figure danced every night, its movements faster, its tattered form closer, its whisper a command. "Finish the dance." I tried to move, but every apartment had mirrors, the same thumping in the walls. A forum post warned of a dancer who'd rented that room. Vanishing after her dance became something else, her mirrors alive with motion. I hired a dance historian, who said the figure was tied to an unfinished choreography, a cursed dance that claimed its partners. She tried to teach me a counter dance, but the thumping became a scream, and she fled, her notes torn. I've moved to a studio with no mirrors, but the thumping follows, the figure in every reflection, windows, puddles, my phone, its dance in my dreams, pulling my limbs to move. I found a leotard in my apartment, not mine, stained with sweat and blood, its tag marked with Jay's initials. I've tried dancing with it, my body shaking, but the steps are wrong, and it screams, its voice in my bones, demanding I join its dance, to be its roommate on the mirrored stage forever. At 31, I was a writer, my apartment on 14, Spruce Lane, apartment 5C, a cluttered archive of notebooks, rejection letters, and half-finished novels. The $1,100 rent a constant threat to my craft. I posted a Craigslist ad at 12:37 a.m. Roommate needed, $450 per month. Utilities included, 14, Spruce Lane, apartment 5C, writer's welcome. The spare room was a nook with a desk and a window overlooking a dark courtyard, perfect for a fellow scribe. I hit post and fell asleep to the hum of my laptop, the city's pulse faint outside. At 3:05 a.m., I woke to a scratching, like a pen on paper, sharp and relentless, coming from a spare room. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam trembling, and crept down the hallway, the air cold, smelling of ink and dust, like an old library gone to rot. I called out, "Hey, anyone there?" But the scratching continued, echoing in the walls. The spare room was empty, the desk bare, but my notebooks were open, filled with jagged script I hadn't written, forming my name. Sophie. A whisper joined the scratching. "Write with me." The air grew colder, my breath fogging, and the whisper became a voice, low and urgent. "You wanted a writer. Write." The pages turned, the script crawling across them, telling a story of my fears, my secrets. I saw a figure hunched in the corner, scribbling in the air, its eyes black pools, its hands dripping ink. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door, but the scratching followed, the notebooks in my room now filled with the same script, a whisper a command. "Finish my story." Dawn stopped the scratching, but my notebooks were ruined, the script bleeding through every page. I deleted the ad, but S messaged again. "Write with me. I'm here." The messages kept coming in my manuscripts, on my walls, in my dreams. The figure wrote every night, its black eyes closer, the ink smelled choking. I tried to move, but every apartment had the same dust smell, the same scratching. A forum post warned of a writer who'd rented that room, vanishing after their words turned against them, their pages alive with a stranger's story. I hired an editor to trace S's email, but their system crashed, their notes overwritten with the same script. I contacted a literary exorcist, who said the figure was tied to an unfinished manuscript, a curse that claimed writers. She tried to burn my notebooks, but the scratching became a scream, and she fled, her own pages stained. I've moved to a shack, no paper, but the scratching follows, the figure in every shadow, its story in my mind, demanding I finish it. I found a journal in my apartment, not mine, filled with S's handwriting, each page a plea to write, stained with ink and blood. I've tried writing its story, my hand shaking, but the words are wrong, and it screams, its voice in my soul, pulling me to be its roommate in the endless pages forever. I was 27, a chef's assistant, my apartment on 19, Cedar Lane, apartment 2D, a fragrant chaos of spice jars, recipe cards, and grease-stained aprons, the $950 rent eating my savings like a fire. I posted a Craigslist ad at 1:10 a.m. Roommate needed, $400 per month, utilities included, 19, Cedar Lane, apartment 2D, foodies welcome. The spare room was a closet with a cot and a window overlooking a dumpster, but I hoped for a culinary ally. I hit post and fell asleep to the lingering smell of garlic and thyme. The city's hum faint outside. At 3:22 a.m., I woke to a sizzling, like meat on a grill, sharp and urgent, accompanied by a smell of burning flesh that turned my stomach. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam catching wisps of smoke, and followed the sound to the kitchen. The room was empty, but the stove was on, flames licking a cast iron pan, the air cold, smelling of blood and ash, like a slaughterhouse in winter. I called out, "Hello," but the sizzling continued, and the pan was filled with something dark, writhing, like living shadows. A whisper came, low and hungry. "Taste it." The air grew colder, my breath fogging, and the whisper became a voice, raspy and eager. "You wanted to cook. Taste." I saw a figure in the corner, its hands stirring the pan, its face charred, its eyes glowing like embers. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door, but the sizzling followed, the smell seeping through the walls, the whisper forming my name. Leo. The kitchen knives rattled, as if drawn by invisible hands, and the air thickened, the blood ash smelled choking. Dawn stopped the sizzling, but the pan was stained black, the kitchen walls smudged with greasy handprints. I deleted the ad, but Elle messaged again. "Taste with me. I'm here." The messages kept coming on my recipe cards, in the grease on my counters. The figure cooked every night, its charred face closer, the sizzling louder, the smell overwhelming. I tried to move, but every apartment had the same blood smell, the same sizzling. A forum post warned of a chef who'd rented that room, vanishing after cooking something unnatural, their kitchen alive with flames. I hired a food critic to investigate, but their notes were overwritten with recipes for things that shouldn't exist. I contacted a shaman, who said the figure was tied to a cursed dish, a meal that consumed its cooks. She tried to cleanse the kitchen, but the sizzling became a roar, and she fled. Her herbs burned. I've moved to a tent, no stove, but the sizzling follows, the figure in every shadow, its dish in my dreams, demanding I taste it. I found a cookbook in my apartment, not mine, filled with Elle's recipes, each page stained with blood and ash, calling for ingredients that scream. I've tried cooking its dish, my hands shaking, but it's wrong, and it screams, its voice in my gut, pulling me to be its roommate in the eternal kitchen forever. I was 28, an art teacher, my apartment on 11 Willow Avenue, apartment 4B, a vibrant chaos of paint tubes, canvases, and easels. The $1,000 rent a constant threat to my passion. I posted a Craigslist ad at 12:50 a.m. Roommate needed, $450 per month, utilities included, 11 Willow Avenue, apartment 4B. Artists welcome. The spare room was a nook with small easel and a window overlooking a dark alley, perfect for a fellow painter. I hit post and fell asleep to the drip of paint from a leaking tube. The city's pulse faint outside. At 3:15 a.m., I woke to a brushing sound, like a paintbrush on canvas, steady and rhythmic, coming from a spare room. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam catching streaks of red, and crept down the hallway, the air cold, smelling of turpentine and blood, sharp and unsettling. I called out, "Hey, anyone there?" But the brushing continued, echoing in the walls. The spare room was empty, but the walls were wet, painted with swirling shapes that moved, forming faces that screamed silently. A whisper joined the brushing. "Paint with me." The air grew colder, my breath fogging, and the whisper became a voice, soft and urgent. You wanted an artist. Paint. My canvases were covered in red, the paint dripping like blood, forming my name. Ava. I saw a figure, its hands dripping red, its face a smeared canvas, its eyes blank. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door, but the brushing followed. The walls now painted with the same swirling faces. The whisper a command. Finish my work. Dawn stopped the brushing, but my canvases were ruined, the paint bleeding through every surface. I deleted the ad, but P messaged again. Paint with me. I'm here. The messages kept coming in my sketchbooks, on my walls, in my dreams. The figure painted every night, its smeared face closer, the turpentine smell choking. I tried to move, but every apartment had the same blood smell, the same brushing. A forum post warned of an artist who'd rented that room, vanishing after their paintings came alive, their canvases screaming. I hired an art restorer to investigate, but their tools were coated in red paint that wouldn't dry. I contacted Mystic, who said the figure was tied to an unfinished masterpiece, a curse that claimed artists. She tried to cleanse my canvases, but the brushing became a scream, and she fled, her own sketches stained. I've moved to a bare room, no paint, but the brushing follows, the figure in every shadow. It's art in my mind, demanding I finish it. I found a canvas in my apartment, not mine, painted with P's swirling faces, each stroke bleeding, calling my name. I've tried painting its work, my hand shaking, but the faces scream, their voices are my soul, pulling me to be its roommate in the eternal canvas forever. I was 29, podcaster, my apartment on 16, Ash Street, apartment 3E, a tangled web of microphones, cables, and soundproof foam. The $900 rent a constant drain on my dreams. I posted a Craigslist ad at 1:35 a.m. Roommate needed, $400 per month, utilities included, 16, Ash Street, apartment 3, quiet types welcome. The spare room was a closet with a foam-padded wall and a window facing a neon sign, ideal for a low-key audio enthusiast. I hit post and fell asleep to the hum of my recording equipment, the city's pulse faint outside. At 3:08 a.m., I woke to a static buzz, like a radio between stations, sharp and grating, coming from the spare room. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam flickering, and crept down the hallway, the air cold, smelling of ozone and metal, like a fried circuit board. I called out, "Hey, is someone there?" But the buzz continued, echoing in the walls. The spare room was empty, the foam untouched, but my microphones were on, recording a voice I hadn't captured, whispering my name. Zoe. A voice joined the static. "I hear you." The air grew colder, my breath fogging, and the whisper became a voice, layered with distortion. "You wanted a listener. Speak." My recordings were altered, filled with my voice saying things I never said, secrets, fears, thoughts I'd buried. I saw a figure, its ears unnaturally large, its eyes closed, its hands adjusting invisible dials. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door, but the buzz followed, the recordings playing on every device, the whisper a command. "Speak to me." Dawn stopped the buzz, but my recordings were corrupted, filled with static and my name. I deleted the ad, but W messaged again. "Listen with me. I'm here." The messages kept coming in my audio files, on my walls, in my dreams. The figure listened every night, its large ears closer, the ozone smell choking. I tried to move, but every apartment had the same metal smell, the same buzz. A forum post warned of a podcaster who'd rented that room, vanishing after their recordings turned against them, their microphones alive with voices. I hired a sound engineer to trace W's email, but their equipment failed, overtaken by static. I contacted an audio mystic, who said the figure was tied to a cursed frequency, a listener that claimed voices. She tried to silence my devices, but the buzz became a scream, and she fled, her own recordings corrupted. I've moved to a silent room, no tech, but the buzz follows, the figure in every shadow, its frequency in my mind, demanding I speak. I found a tape in my apartment, not mine, filled with W static, Each sound my name, calling me to join it. I've tried recording its voice, my hands shaking, but it's wrong, and it screams, its sound in my soul, pulling me to be its roommate in the eternal static forever.